This is the EQStitch study on using the new Move Up and Down tool that is in the current update for the EQStitch program. I am going to create an applique design, so I'm on my applique work table. You can tell it's the applique work table because the fabric tab is showing at the bottom of the screen. We're going to create a design and then we're going to work with the Move tool to show you how this can accommodate our design. I'm going to click on the Shape tool. I'm going to click on the oval and I'm just going to click and drag a circle on the screen. Then I'm going to use the Center Selected Objects to center it right in the middle of my screen. I'm then going to take this same design with the Pick tool. I'm going to select it, make sure it's selected. There we go, and I'm going to clone it. I want to resize it, so I'm going to right click, resize, and I'm going to set it to about 120%, so it's going to be a little bit larger than the first area. And I'm going to say OK, and I'll center that. Now I want to make this outer edge into a little bit of a fancy design, so I'm going to take my Shape tool, I'm going to click on it, and you will get some edit nodes. I want to add more nodes, so I'm going to right click, edit, and the edit arc box comes up, and in there I'm just going to click on the word add. So every segment that's highlighted, I'm just going to click on the word add to add another one. So here's another segment highlighted here, add. I'm going to click on this segment to highlight and add, and I'm just going to continue doing that all the way around to add several nodes to my shape so that I can change the shape. Click on the other side, add. Now when you add this way, what it does is it adds a node directly in the center of the two nodes that are existing on that segment. So it's always perfectly centered. You can always double click to add your own nodes, but then they may not be perfectly centered. So I want to make sure mine are perfectly centered between each and every node. So now I have equal segments all the way around. I'm going to click on a single node, not a line segment, but a node, and I'm going to click and drag and pull that down. So every other node I'm going to pull down to the center. So it's going to create what looks like a little bit of a scalloped edge around my inner circle. And these don't have to be perfect. If you move your nodes slightly one way or the other, it's not going to make a huge difference. We're just practicing on how to use our Move tool in the program. So there I've got a bit of a scalloped edge. I want to go back and I want to add another edge here on this one, the first circle. And so I'm just going to clone that and I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to add a design in the middle of that. So I'm going to go back to my oval tool, click and hold to get the flyout menu. I'm going to take a little heart, draw a little tiny heart within the circle, click on the Pick tool, and now I get my wreath maker, and I'm going to change the number of elements to 7, and I want them to be really close together, so I'm reducing the cluster spacing, say OK, and then center that. So this is the design that I want to work with. I'm going to click on the Fabric tab now, and what I want to do is I want to put fabric just on the center circle only. So I'm going to choose a color here. Let's make my flower purple, and I'm going to click on it. So I've just got the center circle here. Now I'm going to go to the Stitch tab. Now I can see the presets for the design that are in the Applique work table. So I need to make a few changes here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look at where this applique is. I think it's on the second circle that we made, not the first circle. So I'm going to click on the new Move Up and Down tool. And in the box, as I scroll down the side, I can see what happens first, second, and third. So as I click on this, I can see that the third thing that I did, so the first thing I did was I drew a circle, then I made my scalloped edge, and then I made another circle. I actually don't want my applique here. I want it to sew first, not last. or not third. So now that I have this selected, you can see it's highlighted both in the move box and on the screen. I want to take this and I want it to actually be at the bottom. So at the bottom of the box, there's a move to bottom arrow. So I'm going to click on that, and now it puts it underneath where I want it. There's my second circle that's going to be more of a decorative edge. There's this one. Now this one again is in the wrong position. I don't want it on top of my edges. I actually want it at the very bottom. So if I click on it to select it and say move to bottom, now it's behind the others. So we're getting a little bit closer here as to what I actually wanted. But what I want to do is I want to set my stitch properties, and I'm going to have difficulty doing that when they're layered one on top of the other. So let's just take a look at that. If I go to my first layer, which is going to be this little scalloped edge, that has no fabric in it, so it means it's being treated as an embroidery stitch. So let's click on the set embroidery edge, and I'm going to make that a bean stitch, and I'm going to click on that. Now even though that was behind the others, the reason I could select it was because it extended out beyond the edge. So I am able to put my stitches onto this design here. I want to color that, so let's make that blue. Okay. Now I have my applique layer that's in here, but notice it's underneath the other layer. So I'm not going to be able to change the settings in here because I can't get to it. So what I have to do is remember my move tool that's going to help me, and I need to bring it up to the top so I can apply my stitches that I want, and then I can move it back down again. So let's go to the move tool. So right now, what I'm looking at is this applique layer here. That is the second thing the stitches. The first thing is my outline stitch for my little scalloped edge, and then it's the applique. So I want to remember that's in the second position. But I need to move it to the top so I can work on it. So I'm going to click on it to select it, and then I'm going to click on the move to top. Now it's on top, so now I'll be able to work with it. I want to change the stitch properties on this. So I'm going to go to my applique edge tool because this is my applique with my fabric in it. I'm going to change it to an E-stitch, and I'm going to actually make it a blanket stitch. So I'm going to do that by making the %0. The width, I'm going to make it pretty wide. I'm going to make it 8. My density, I'm going to really open it up, so I'm going to make it 10. And percent inside, I want it to be 100%. Now when I move my cursor over and I click on the edges, you can see that I've got this blanket stitch on the inside. While I'm here, I want to color this. So I'm going to click on my set thread tool, and I'm going to choose a purple to blend with my fabric. And I'm going to click on that. So now I have my edge stitch for my applique that is the stitch properties that I want, but it's in the wrong position. I want it to stitch second. So now that I've applied this, I can go back to my move tool. I can click on this layer, and I can move this two different ways. I can say move to bottom. It's in the bottom, which is the wrong spot, but then I can move it up 1. The other way I can do this is when it's at the top, I can click on just the down arrow alone. That moves it down 1 step at a time. So I've gone too far, so I want it to be here. So there's 2 ways that you can move in this diagram here. The next thing I want to do is I want to look at this layer. So that's the third design stitch element out here. And I want to change the properties of this one out here. Because this is on top, I will be able to reach it. I don't have to move it up to the top. So this has no fabric in it, so it treats it as an embroidery stitch. So I need to go to the set edge stitch. I'm going to still keep it as a steel stitch. I'm going to adjust the width, let's say make it 5 millimeters. And the density, I'm going to leave it at 10, which is a looser zigzag stitch. And it's a bit too wide. Let's make it 3 millimeters. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to remove the underlay stitch that's underneath that outside edge. So I'm going to go to the Set Underlay on the edge stitch. I'm going to uncheck the parallel and go back and click on my line. And that has removed the underlay stitch. And while it's there, I'm going to color it. I'm going to click on the same purple and color that stitch. So now I have a bit of a decorative stitch on top of my applique stitch. Actually, it still looks a bit too narrow, so I'm going to go back to my set edge stitch and I'm going to make it 4 millimeters. That's a little bit better. The underlay stitch, make sure that's not on there. Okay, so that's 4 millimeter on my set edge stitch. I just made it a little bit wider because I wanted to make sure that it covered the E-stitch that I did in the center. Now I'm looking at these hearts in the middle, and they're not at all what I want. I want a more delicate look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my set fill stitch, and I'm going to just choose a smooth fill, and I'm going to click on each one of the hearts to add a fill stitch. And notice I can't get to this last one because it's behind the others, so that's okay. Let's go to the set edge stitch now, and I'm going to turn off the edge stitch on each one of the hearts. And now I should be able to get to this one hopefully with the set fill. Okay, it's telling me it's there, so let's just double check. Yes, it is there. So now I have my set fill stitches. This doesn't look very pretty. I want to add some color to this so we can see the definition of each one of the hearts. Click on the set thread tool and go through and color each one of the hearts so it stands out in relief to the one next to it. And you can choose whatever colors you want. So I'm just going to click around here. Let's put orange and let's put a purple, dark purple. Okay, and then once you're satisfied with your design, add it to the sketchbook. Now there's 2 ways you can check the stitching order on this. One, of course, is with the Move Up and Down tool, and you can look at this again to confirm what it's going to do. First, it's going to stitch this blue outline of the little ripple stitch around the outside edge. Then it's going to stitch the applique, which is the purple fabric in the center. Now notice that on the applique, all 3 layers are together. So there is your tack down, your placement line, your tack down line, and your edge stitch all together. We cannot separate those here. The next one is my decorative edge stitch that I added, which was this 3rd one. And from there it goes up and it does each of the hearts. So that's one way to check how it's going to stitch. The other way is to check with your Simulate Sewing. And I'm going to slow it down just a touch, and we're going to click on Play Forward, and this again will confirm how this is going to stitch. You can look at this and decide whether or not you like the stitches, whether you want to change it. So there's your placement line, your tack down line, and there's your E-stitch that's going to go around, and it's quite pronounced E-stitch. Normally I would not make it that deep, but I know that I'm going to do a decorative edge out here. So it adds just another element of decor to my applique by adding this deep of an E-stitch. Then I'm going to add my decorative stitch, which is going to cover those outside lines. Notice there's no underlay. I deleted the underlay. And then it's going to go in and it's going to do the fill stitches in the center. So that is the Move tool. It helps us so that we do not have to keep going back to our Artwork tab to move to front or move to back. We can simply move the elements very easily with the new Move Up and Down tool.